Where are you going?
We go to Green Square.
Yeah.
We just get taxi. No problem.
No, good.
For 2 months now, journalists from all over the world have been held under unofficial house arrest in Tripoli's Rixos Al Nasser hotel, unable to venture out to report independently.
Nobody allowed to be outside.
Armed men and intelligence officials guard these gates round the clock. We can only leave with government minders to see things the government wants us to see. There's been a war going on up the road for 2 months. Civilians being killed in rebel-held Misrata. For the past fortnight, the government has refused to take us there.
All journalists, the press conference is starting now.
We're fed a daily diet of government propaganda.
When will it be possible again to allow international independent journalists to go to Misrata to see things for themselves?
This is not up to the army, it's up to the Department of Foreign Press.
Every night we would ask again to go to Misrata, but it never happened.
Attention please, the trip to Misrata had been postponed.
News conferences are called at any time of day or night. We're never told who'll be speaking or on what. Some of the journalists aren't actually journalists at all. The hotel lobby is the centre of our universe. On its walls, a rogues gallery of illustrious past guests and visitors. The Rixos lobby correspondents huddle here to file copy, call contacts, and write about a war we're not allowed to witness. The regime has planted its people throughout the hotel.
There are scores of government minders and their faces change every single day. They while away their hours drinking endless cups of coffee here on the hotel terrace. Our job is to film things which the government doesn't want us to see. Their job is to stop us doing that. We're fundamentally juxtaposed.
Saif al-Gaddafi, son of the brother leader, is on state TV. Minders huddle to watch. He repeatedly told journalists they can report freely anywhere in Libya.
You are in Tripoli. You have your camera. Go and film everywhere. Interview people.
We cannot go anywhere. You said this country is open for you to go anywhere. Journalists are being arrested outside this hotel and returned to it and told not to go anywhere without a minder.
Let me check this myself.
Yes, I would be grateful if you did. Thank you.
We never heard back from Saif al-Gaddafi, and the restrictions were tightened.
What are you trying to hide?
Jonathan, it's not really accurate description, is it? You do go out, and we do take you to neighborhoods.
We only go out to places that you want us to see, to green demonstrations.
Not exactly accurate again, Jonathan. You do go around and drive around with our minders and the interpreters and our drivers. Yes, I know this. I admit that we are not giving you complete free access. We have problems with the media, and as I said, we were developing and changing, and now this war comes in and stops and halts everything.
Last month, a real Libyan burst into our hotel. Her name, Eman Al-Obeidi. As minders and waiting staff tried to silence her, she shouted out to journalists that she'd been kidnapped and gang raped by Gaddafi's militiamen. Waitresses tried to restrain her. It was like a barroom brawl, spilling out into the lobby as minders kicked and punched reporters and smashed cameras. One drew a gun. We looked on, astonished and powerless, as Eman Al-Obeidi was manhandled into a car and driven off.
Well, this is the very table. I sat here, she sat just there, and she was screaming about what Gaddafi's militia had done to her. And she slipped through this gap to try to get away from the minders who were attacking her. I have repeatedly sought access to Eman Al-Obeidi and have repeatedly been refused. The government insists that she was just a prostitute.
A month on, the kitchen staff are still here, and this is the minder who drew a gun, Jalal Al-Traika. Even other minders call him Scarface. This was our first run-in with him in March. In the dining room brawl, he punched me in the face. We were promised he'd be fired, but he wasn't.
We did fire 3 of the security.
Has Jalal been rehabilitated?
He was one of them. These people are not under my command, okay? But I talked to the proper authorities. They did punish them. They did fire them.
But Jalal Al-Traika is back.
I'm recovered from our last meeting.
We'd asked to go to the old city in the hope of having real conversations with real people, but we've got Jalal and 4 other minders to watch us. I can't move without him trailing me.
These people are terrified of speaking to us, we've just learned. We go into a shop, the minders come in after us. It's almost impossible to speak to them.
Some journalists are philosophical about the restrictions, but the frustrations are huge.
The news conferences are possibly the most absurd series of nonsense and lies that I've ever had the misfortune of spending any time in. The delivery of facts is absolutely ridiculous.
Journalists leaving the hotel, sometimes after long stints of reporting, can't wait to escape.
I've been here for almost a month, and leaving the Rixos Hotel is like leaving prison.
Still refusing to take us to Misrata or meet any civilian casualties, our minders herd us by bus to a place they say was bombed by NATO.
So we've been driven an hour and a half south of Tripoli to the city of Al-Azizia, well, outside the city of Al-Azizia, to a hole in the ground, which, it's not entirely clear why we're here.
No one had been killed, no one injured. There was no damage, just an unexplained crater. Last week, after several false starts, we staged a breakout and escaped unnoticed into Tripoli. We'd made contact with a rebel fighter who was willing to risk meeting us. He claimed that well-armed rebel cells were operating in the capital. One day we'll get Gaddafi, he told me. The revolt here will be bloody, he said, but Libyans have tasted blood already, and it's too late to go back. Rebel units, he said, were attacking army checkpoints every night. It made sense of the sporadic crackle of gunfire we hear every night at the Rixos Hotel. Had we just been fed Libyan rebel propaganda? Maybe. But after our incarceration in Tripoli's Ministry of Truth, it felt like a breath of fresh air. Jonathan Miller, Channel 4 News, Tripoli.